Welcome back to another episode of the Casey Campbell podcast. Casey Campbell with you, of course. And whenever Michael Carey pops on here from SRX, and Mr. Paint Scheme enthusiast himself, you know it's Throwback Week. This is one of my favorite times of the year, and this is, I think, the third year we've done this. So kind of an annual tradition. But before we look at the paint schemes here, just kind of talk about, you've been pretty busy over at SRX.
Yeah, SRX has been very busy over the last couple months. Just getting ready for the season. We got a lot of great stuff on the way. We've announced a ton of great drivers. We got a couple great partner announcements on the way. A couple more drivers coming too that I think a lot of fans are going to enjoy in the future. So the announcements aren't stopping. We definitely have a lot of great stuff, and I think the fans are going to be pretty jazzed up as we're heading into July. We're 2 months away now, about 2 months to the day. Our first race in Stafford, so it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. And it's Thursday nights will never be the same. That's for sure.
Thursday Night Thunder. I can't wait to be. I might be at one of them. So you never know.
Mhm.
Let's take a look at these throwbacks. If you haven't noticed, if you know how this works, Michael here has put together his some paint schemes, some hits. We might do some misses as well, but we'll start off with this one. Joey Logano, throwing it back to the early days of Penske.
Yeah, so this is a throwback to Mark Donohue during his time at Penske, I believe. And this to me is one of my favorites of the bunch because I like to grade throwbacks on a couple of different things. Accuracy is a big thing. That's pretty much what makes or breaks a throwback is the accuracy. If a team can change their number, fine. If the sponsor is willing to change their word mark, things of that nature. And Penske right here, it kind of surprised me. I heard rumors before this got announced that like this might be a contender, this might be what it was going to be. And I remember just thinking like, please let this be, don't put the Penske 22 on this. Please make it like the same font, same style. And they did. I mean, the car looks fantastic. I applaud Pennzoil for also changing their word mark for this occasion. That's the whole point. It's fun when sponsors are willing to kind of change up their branding a little bit, and they're willing to do this. And I think when a throwback looks as good as this with the accuracy in mind, it's hard to vote against it. Best in show.
Yeah, it looks really, really clean. Just number font is just right there. It looks awesome. All right, what's next? Oh, this one.
So
You can't go wrong with
this
this one.
this one wins alone strictly because of it feels like a full circle kind of deal. Ray was nice enough where I guess Rick maybe asked Ray to let them utilize that 9, and you haven't seen that in a long time. When you put that Evernham 9 on the door, the first driver I think of is Bill Elliott, and obviously Chase Elliott, being his son. It was cool that Lamar is willing to, again, this is, red. I don't think it's their dominant color. It's more like orange and white and that shade of green, I think. But it's cool to see this. It looks very plain, like the typical NASCAR. I guess an unknown fan might not know what this car is, but to the hardcore fan, and if you watched NASCAR in the 90s and 2000s, you know exactly what this car is and who this driver represents. And you kind of was wondering what was taking so long, for Chase Elliott to run the Evernham 9 again. It just feels like it's a full circle moment. I think it'd be pretty cool. I'm pretty sure, I think Bill's going to be in Darlington. So if Chase wins in this car, it's going to make his mom happy. It's going to make Bill happy. It'll make Chase happy, and it'll make the merchandise sales very happy.
Yeah, it's and also NASCAR is honoring their the 75 greatest drivers. That of course they were all named the last few weeks. Obviously, Bill was one of them that was one of the original 50. So, and all 75 that are still living to this day will be there. I don't know if there's any, travel issues with that, but yeah, this is a favorite of mine. It's just this kind of reminds me of like, Dodge or something. It's
Yeah.
like going back to when Dodge first came in the sport, and this was like, one of those cars that did it. So. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, I think a lot of fans were kind of questioning. I mean, it's kind of like with Jeff Gordon, with the hot new look that Sam Bass designed 2001. Fans were kind of wondering when's this car going to run? Is it ever going to run? And this is one that I think a lot of fans maybe they thought it wouldn't run because, like, I think Ray still owns the rights to that 9, but obviously Ray and Hendrick have such a good relationship that this kind of felt right, and I think this is the perfect time to do it.
All right, what's next? Okay, this is cool right here.
So this, I think, caught a lot of people off guard. I remember when I saw this, it caught me off guard. But one of the big things I like about this car is Noah Sweet designed it, and the kid's so talented. Noah is one of the most talented designers in the sport right now, and he had to utilize his creativity to make that 7 in the same style as the 8. Because a lot of times these numbers get unveiled, and sometimes a designer might create just that number. So I'm sure when they created the 88 at Hendrick, there was a full palette of 0 to 9 in that 8 style, because they Junior was, they were talking about doing the 28, the 38. I think the 83 was an option. So Lefty had to really get creative with that 7 to make it look like the same as that 8. But this throws back to Junior's nationwide scheme. I believe it was 2017. Yeah, 2017. And again, Dude Wipes is typically black and blue, and to kind of pull this off, I think it's pretty cool, and I think Junior was happy with it as well. And it is kind of weird though to see this design without it being a Chevy SS, because I think it's called the Rev Bar on the side of the car. It matched perfectly in the contours of that side vent, so it's kind of weird seeing it on this car. But this was one I think a lot of fans were kind of caught off guard at and surprised at. I am curious to know though if that 78 is actually going to be metallic. Like, I really hope that it's not just because if you look closely at that 88 on Junior's cars, they were always metallic. It was never just printed on; it was always metallic. So I'm hoping that 78 will be metallic. I haven't seen pictures of it in person yet, but it's going to be fun to see it come together.
Yeah, this of course Anthony also drove for Dale Jr. back in the day when he ran late models for him. So yeah, it's part of that. Many drivers in the Xfinity Truck Series have driven for Junior and late models and stuff. So yeah, I kind of paying homage to that. And I think it was right around this time when it happened in 2017, and I think that's when Alfredo was driving for Dale Jr. So that there's that kind of connection there too. So,
and that makes a Throwback special too. Is like, and there's a couple of them in here that I'm going to show you where it connects back to the driver. It's basically the driver showing appreciation to, a Dale Jr., a Jeff Gordon, a Jimmy Johnson, and for it to get approved and for it to be ran, I think it's a pretty nice gesture by Anthony.
Absolutely. All right, what's next? Okay, so this looks pretty cool.
Yeah, so this nods back to Kevin Hamlin. And what I like about Alex Bowman is, a couple parts of this, but it's Ally and Alex Bowman. This isn't the first time that Alex has ran a car honoring a member of his team.
Yeah,
he did a Greg Ives throwback. I think it was 2 years ago. In the last couple of years, he did a Greg Ives throwback to when Ives was racing, and it's such an obscure throwback. Like, you're kind of like why or what is that? Then you learn the story behind it, and to see Kevin Hamlin's car done up like this. Ally, again, it's a brand that's willing to throw out their brand guidelines for a race and kind of let the creative team go at it. And the reaction video that when Alex and Kevin saw the car, I mean, Kevin almost looked like he was going to cry, because you don't expect that. Usually a driver throws it back because of a sponsor or another driver. No, this is his spotter. And I think it's really cool to see, this throwback come to life. And again, it's kind of hard to see this with the numbers moved forward. Like, you kind of wish it was on the door just to kind of get that vibe. But the hood looks great. I think, again, Ally, I applaud them for being willing to, again, change their brand guidelines and, let's get accuracy back in the game.
Oh yeah. And we should also note Josh Berry will be driving this car, obviously, with Bowman.
That's true. I keep forgetting that Bowman's out of the car, unfortunately. Hopefully he's going to get better soon.
Yeah, for sure. All right, what's next? Okay, so this is a pretty good one. I was wondering another one that I was wondering when this was going to go down.
So I love seeing Jason Leffler throwbacks. He's had a couple of really good cars, and this is a car that really wins on accuracy. If you look at, I mean, some things on the car, like the hood, for example, like you see in the top left photo, the strokes are a little bit thicker, but overall, this is a car that really screams accuracy. And again, this is same number, same sponsor, same design, same colors, and Cole really, I think he really appreciates Jason Leffler, and Leffler was, I think one of the first drivers in the Haas CNC racing program when he was kind of on his way up. So this throwback is really good from an accuracy perspective. And, again, that's a huge thing for me. If a throwback can make it as accurate as possible, to me, it's an automatic contender for best in show, no matter the driver, sponsor of the series. There are a couple other like Haas cars I kind of want to see. I'm kind of hoping that honestly one day, this is kind of a basic one, but I always loved Kurt Busch's 2014 Haas Automation paint scheme, like the matte black with the red, the red design on the side. I love that car. I hope we get that one day, but obviously you can't go wrong with honoring a driver who, has passed on.
Yeah, I mean everyone's everyone talks about like are we getting too old on the throwbacks here? But it's like, yeah, there's still a lot that haven't been done yet. So
that's something I think you're going to see in the future. I think you're going to start to see more, I wouldn't call them obscure, but yeah, like everybody has done a Richard Petty throwback. Like you can only throw back to so many Richard Petty cars. I think there's one major throwback that I'm not sure you'll ever see it run, but no one's done a Dale Earnhardt black number 3 throwback yet. I don't think you'll ever see it, but like that's one example of one that I think it's going to have to be a pretty special occasion for that car to return. But I mean, it took so many years for Jeff Gordon's hot new look to make an appearance. And that was the 2007 variant, not even the 01 variant. But I think there's multiple obstacles, a lot of approvals and things of that nature, but there is no shortage of schemes to throw back to. It's just, you need to think of one that's going to like wow people.
Yeah. All right. What's next? Oh, okay. So this one, well, kind of explain this one.
So this is one in the family for Corey. It's going back to Don LaJoie. And Corey is another driver who is a student of the sport. Like, I think he really can appreciate the history of NASCAR. And obviously he comes from a racing family. The LaJoies have been in racing for so many years. And it kind of seems like Spire is, especially in the last couple of years, I think Spire is starting to have a lot more fun with their throwbacks. And obviously at throwback time, sometimes the rules get bent a little bit because, a lot of teams have to go through these paint scheme approvals. And, it's crazy, like the rules that are around for these paint schemes. And, technically this is a 3-number car, if you think about it. But this is, I think, a pretty good translation of Don's car to LaJoie's car. When you have a sponsor like Nation's Guard, again, when a sponsor is kind of willing to, kind of bend the rules a little bit for a good throwback, this is one of them. And I love the fact that, Don's name's on the side of the car. Like, I think that's such a cool touch when you put the old driver's signature or their logo or whatever on the car. Corey, I think, is always a driver too that will always have a good throwback because there's so much history in his family and he appreciates a lot of it. This one's just this is a classic. This is a classic look for a throwback.
All right. What's next?
And it was his grandfather, by the way. Don LaJoie was his grandfather.
Right. What's next? This was actually one of the first ones to get revealed.
So you kind of noticed that throwback season this year started very late. There were a lot of throwbacks that kind of came out late this year. And this was one of the first ones that showed up, and Sean McGee did this design. And one of the things I admire about Sean is obviously this is a Dodge Mopar throwback. But he had to kind of think outside the box a little bit with the sponsor units. And, Sean's very good at that sort of stuff. trying to make units kind of maybe swing them or convince them to do something like this. And again, this is another example where the number changed. The branding of Hill Motorsports changed for a hot minute, and units again. That's not typical units branding. And Sean sold them on this pretty good. And I think again, accuracy perspective, it looks pretty good. I think Sean is also a very good designer when it comes to throwback time. And Sean's also the kind, like, Sean will he'll always try to fit the brand well, like fit a brand for a sponsorship proposal pretty well. Then sometimes the sponsor will kind of tone it back a little bit, but you kind of notice that there's more barbed wire, I think, on, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. No, it's actually accurate. Probably because the truck bodies maybe got bigger, like the stuff looks a bit smaller. But I also kind of like how, if you look at the Mopar truck, the Dodge that runs along the fender, he put the Toyota logo there. So it's details like that I think are pretty sweet. And again, Sean kills it every time at throwbacks.
All right. Yeah, this one looks good. And this is one that I was wondering. I forgot about this one. It's this was a cool one to do.
It seemed like this one got announced, and then there was a dark period of just like 2 weeks of like no throwback news, and then they started coming out more and more. Maybe that was planned. I don't know, but yeah, this is one of the first ones, and a lot of people were kind of just like, "Yep, that's a throwback." Now, where's everybody else at?
All right. What's next? This one's been done before, but this not on a truck.
So it's a very colorful truck.
Yeah,
a lot of colors in this one, but it's been a while since that 45 I think's been ran.
yeah,
Obviously, we all know that 45 as Adam and Kyle Petty.
right.
But I think Nice Motorsports is actually, the truck series as a whole, Tricon, Nice, like they really did it. They really whooped it this year when it comes to this sort of stuff. And I think Auto Park is also another sponsor that's kind of willing to bend their guidelines a little bit. But I mean, it's so cool to see this on a truck. It just, the scheme fits very well. And it seems like this year there's a lot more. I'm kind of noticing a lot more teams are willing to, again, change their number style and kind of be authentic. And
Yeah,
I think in the truck series, this is definitely one of the best ones. I think it's gonna be a dead heat between Nice and Tricon, maybe,
yeah.
for the best truck. But this looks great. Funny enough, I believe this design still sits outside of Victory Junction Gang
It
on a
does.
show car.
Yep.
So to me, it's a timeless car. It's a timeless design, and this is one I kind of wish happened more often, especially early on in throwback season. But I mean, it's good to run it now. But I think this truck looks outstanding, and Nice really did a good job this year.
Yeah. Also, this is kind of symbolic in a way, because this truck is running on this day 23 years ago. This was the day that Adam Petty got killed. So
Was it
yeah,
really?
yes,
Huh. I did not make that connection.
yep. So of course the
Interesting.
truck race is tonight.
Yeah. So it'd be a very fitting, uh, be a fitting moment, I think, if this truck can go to victory lane, and that'd be a great way to honor Adam.
Yeah. And obviously we haven't seen the 45 in that style of number since 2008, when Kyle Petty was still running in the series. So
And I think it's pretty cool, like, that, I'm sure Kyle had to give his blessing on it. I'm sure Nice reached out.
yeah,
But it's pretty cool to see an asset like that 45. It's not being kept under lock and key and collecting dust. Like, this is something that I think, if a team wants to honor a driver like this, I really hope that we see more of this in the future.
all right. What's next? So you're talking about truck series throwbacks. There's kind of a theme to this, to Tricon. Of course, all their trucks are paying tribute to the Red Horse Racing team, and Corey Haim's truck specifically is honoring the Timothy Peters truck from back in 2014.
Yeah, I don't know who at Tricon came up with this, but I know Cullen and Roberto Ramirez. Roberto Ramirez, he goes by Bolt's designs, he he killed this. I mean, it's cool to see. Red Horse Racing, was a staple name in the Truck Series for so many years, and this was their iconic sort of design, was with the number, a red truck, red and white truck, a number in a black box. You could take away all the logos and numbers, and you could tell, and someone can tell you what that truck is. And Tricon this year, I don't know who would have fire under them. They killed it this year, especially when you look at like a team wide throwback skill, a team wide throwback palette is an insane concept. That's hard to do. I mean, Alpha Prime Racing did the same thing this year. They're doing. I mean, that's more Richard Childress Racing themed,
Yeah.
and RCR Richard Childress themed. But Tricon just said, you know what, that organization, we're doing it all. And 3 of the 5 trucks, I think, are Red Horse Racing throwbacks. So, I mean, it's such a cool concept to see this. And I don't know, I'm sure there's a lot of months of planning and who's getting what truck and what design, but it's cool to see that Safelite, I think in the last couple of years, Safelite didn't, like, they kept running that white throwback.
Yeah.
That was like their truck from, I think, from like the 90s or something like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's okay. It gets kind of boring after a while, but I like to see that Safelite was able to kind of, Tricon was able to swing them this way, and it's so cool to see a Red Horse Racing truck back on, even in this way, back on track. I think is so cool.
Yeah. And of course, all 5 Tricon trucks will be running, and even the 2 that aren't throwbacks, they'll be running the Red Horse Racing style numbers. So that's
Yep.
So even if they're not running a throwback, it's still technically a throwback. So yeah.
Well, I mean, hey, it's here's the thing though, like you can, that 11 or that black box and the number, you can put that on like any vehicle, Cup, Xfinity, or truck, and someone's gonna tell you Red Horse Racing. Like it might look kind of weird, like to see a number style done that way, but it's like 20 years from now, you look at that black box, the first thing you're gonna think of is Red Horse Racing. Good branding.
For sure. All right. Next. Okay, so this one's a little interesting. Kind of explain this one. This is Ryan Vargas.
So this is Ryan Vargas. He's throwing it back to Sean Woodside. As the graphic says, 1999 NASCAR West Series champion. Royalty Graphics put this together, and again, accuracy is a big thing, right? On Point threw away their number font. They are going with this one. I mean, I think Royalty kind of, this kind of fits in his wheelhouse, I think.
Yeah.
To recreate that 30, and even like the On Point Motorsports logo, for example, on the graphic is the same as the team, it was Walker Motorsports. You don't see that very often. Some teams are so tight with their branding. Like, I will not change this. I will not change this. Alpha Prime, again, I'm going to say this a lot because I live at Ryan Piston, so I'm going to say Alpha Prime a lot, but they changed their branding. It's APR in the RCR style, but back to this truck. It's such a unique throwback. You don't think to throw it back to a NASCAR West Series champion. You just don't. But I think Ryan Vargas is a driver who's very, he studies the sport well. I mean, I talked to him on occasion, and he's always watching video, always trying to land the next sponsor. He's a hardworking driver. He's a classic NASCAR driver, in my opinion. Yeah. There's no big budget team that's following him to get these sponsors. He's cold calling people. He's got presentations all the time. Yeah. He's somebody that I think loves to show appreciation. And I mean, this was such a great idea. Again, it also kind of brings back familiarity to Sean Woodside. I didn't know who Sean Woodside was, not until this truck came out. Then I started looking him up and what his story was. Yeah. And this was just a greatly executed throwback. Also, bonus points, all yellow splitter. Love it. I love those loud neon accents. And the original truck even had that. It wasn't as prominent, but on this 30 truck, it's a loud front end and it looks damn good.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. This is, you don't think of throwing it back to a West Series champion. Now, of course, now known as, the ARCA Menard Series West, but Yeah, this is an underrated throwback. I think this is pretty good. All right.
But this is also another example of doing something that's going to wow somebody, or
Yeah.
like it's going to make them think like, who's Sean Woodside? Why would you do this? Then you look into it and it's like, oh, okay, like that's a unique idea. This is another avenue too. You don't see ARCA throwbacks usually,
Yeah.
or in this case, the NASCAR West Series from the '90s. You don't see throwbacks like that.
Yeah.
Now you got one.
Now I want to see like I know this is probably too early, but I kind of want to see like the Michael Self Sinclair paint scheme one day. One day I want to see that on the
I'm
track.
sure. I'm sure one day you will.
All
I'm
right.
sure someone will do it.
All right. Yeah, I know. What's next? Okay, so this was another one of those early throwbacks that got revealed. This has been done before, but it's been a while since we've seen this one done.
Yeah, and I think certain throwbacks, um, they get used up a lot. I think this might be one of them where I'm kind of like, all right, like it seems like every year at least one driver is doing a throwback to, Jeff Bodine. I mean, obviously it's a very important car to the Hendrick Motorsports history. Like Bodine's a very important driver to that organization. But I will say though, from an accuracy perspective, this car looks pretty damn good. Like First Pacific funding, the fonts look nearly identical. I think they might be identical actually, to the sponsor on the 5 car from the '80s. But it's that star running along the side. It's just it's iconic. Like it's hard to not do it. And I think every team kind of wants to do these certain throwbacks. It's like we can do it better. And I think this is one of those examples of them doing it much better. I really wish Clements had the 5 for this race just to really hit it home. But overall, I think that this car looks great. I feel like Clements always brings a pretty decent throwback.
Oh yeah.
That's a team that's willing to have fun. I do hope the fire suit is designed in a similar fashion. I think that also kind of adds to the throwback when the throwback fire suits come out. It seemed like in 2015 when throwback first started, like every driver had a throwback fire suit, and you had the wigs that came out and the hats and all that. You don't see that very often anymore. So I'm hoping this week Clements brings a proper fire suit with him.
Yeah. All right. What's next? This one.
This was a weird one. I nobody was expecting this one, I don't think, but I don't think we've seen a Herbie fully loaded throwback before. But funny enough, we actually saw this car. I went out to dinner with Pistana, Ryan Williams, and I think it was just those two. We actually saw that car, like a buggy painted just like that 53 in the corner in the parking lot. It was a weird, like it was a weird thing. Anyway, I think Michael Maselli of Race Artist did this. And again, this is no one's done this yet, I don't think. And I think it's pretty funny that like this is even being done. Like you just don't think to do this. And I applaud the fact that he added the fender flares, like the wheel arches on the side. You add that custom shadow to it. It looks pretty good. And I love the fact that you see the 53 on the hood. Like to me, I think that's such a like if you look back at the NASCAR back in like the I think like the 50s, 60s, and 70s, there were drivers who used to run numbers on the hood, whether it was in the corner and that's a classic racing deal, like running a number on the hood somewhere. But this was great. I mean, this honestly was such a good throwback. And again, this is doing something that's going to wow somebody. Like, you can do a Days of Thunder throwback, a Talladega Nights throwback, but this is one that I think not many people can pull off. On top of that, too, the fact that Emerald Gase Motorsports owns the 53 in Xfinity, it makes it that much better.
That's and it also kind of goes back to, maybe, people like you and I mean, obviously, I think we're probably right around the same age. We remember seeing, Herbie fully loaded as kids. So kind of goes back to that a little bit.
Yeah, it's cool to see it. This was a very unique idea for sure.
Did you like that movie, by the way?
I actually never saw it.
It's a good
I
one.
know I know the story of it and the 53 buggy, but I actually have never seen it. I'll have to now, but
Yeah. Yeah, you should yeah, it's a good movie. Yeah. All right. What's next? All right. This was I know we were originally going to take this on Wednesday, but someone kind of told me someone knew about some throwbacks that were going to get revealed late, and this was one of them.
so this is classic Ryan Daly. He's him and Harris Lou were just students of NASCAR history. I mean, Harris Lou's closet is literally color coordinated and filled with throwback T-shirts. The dude's insane. Um, but you see a lot of good Harvick throwbacks this year, and I think this is right up there. Um, this is a great throwback because this, from an accuracy perspective, I said this earlier, it's so important, and it's got the same sponsor. It's got the same design. They added some new, a little bit of new flair to it, but um, the O2 is in the KHI or the RCR style. This is such a good throwback that just checks all the boxes off.
Oh yeah.
Um, I'm sure Ryan Daly looked up dozens of images of this car and was meticulously making sure all the strokes lined up and everything. But he really killed it with this one. And I don't think it's going to win Throwback of the Year, unfortunately, because at least for Darlington's voting, because it's got unveiled so late. But this is definitely a top 5 throwback, I think, in my opinion, strictly on an accuracy perspective. And here's the other thing that I just noticed that looking at this, the Blaine Perkins name rail on the driver door is the same font and style that Kevin Harvick has ran, that Kevin Harvick used to run. I think he still runs it now. But on the passenger side door is Kevin Harvick's name. So it's cool to see, it's cool to see little details like that to really hit it home. Like, Daly he's a stickler for design accuracy. I mean, he even changed his logo to like Sonic, like the food chain. And if you look on the C post of Harvick's car, it's the Sonic logo, and then on the C post of Blaine's car, it's Ryan Daly's logo that looks like Sonic.
Yeah.
It's just that's how he is. Like Ryan's always thinking that way, and whenever it's throwback season, he's got something up his sleeve. He really does well.
Yeah, and also, Blaine Perkins, is from Bakersfield, California, which is also the same place that Kevin Harvick's from. So yeah, kind of the connection there. And also, this is actually the first race Blaine is back because of the nasty crash he had at Talladega. But and even get payday on the car. I talked to Blaine yesterday, and he was telling me about it wasn't easy to get payday on there. So
I
was
think that's a big thing too. Is like, I think if you're able to get the sponsor on the car, it might make the approval process a little bit better. Plus, like if like some paint schemes can only be done if it has the right sponsor on it, and I think this is one of those examples for sure.
yeah. All right. What's next? This one brings back I know this one got a lot of attention when it was revealed.
And this, honestly, I think shocked a lot of people because Monster Energy does not change their NASCAR brand at all. It is always a flat black car, and that's it. It's matte black, it's Monster, and that's it. I think it's really it shows you, I think, how much Ken Block meant to Monster Energy that they're willing to change what they're used to for an occasion like this. And personally, I can't I can say that I didn't follow Ken Block that much. Like I wasn't like an avid fan of his. I just never followed him. But I know who he is. Like how he was one of the best extreme drivers ever. And I think it's so cool that we get to see this car from 2010 come back, even in NASCAR. This is such an iconic Ken Block car too. I think Ryan actually has a framed image of this car in his room, autographed by Ken Block. I see it all the time when I walk in his room, and it's so great to see that Monster is paying tribute this way. And it's not the only Ken Block scheme either. But it's such a great thing to see this, and I think Riley, Riley fits that. Excuse me, fits that mold. I think of like a Ken Block or something like that. He just has like I can't explain what it is. He just that's like that energy almost. But this is definitely one of the best I think so far. And again, this got unveiled late, so I'm not sure it's going to win Best in Show, but I think without that fan vote in Darlington, this is definitely a top 5 throwback. I think for sure.
All right. What's next?
So this is a unique one.
Yeah.
Because a lot of fans probably weren't expecting this. But
I think this goes back to 2002, 2001.
2001, 2002.
Okay.
Worldwide Express, they're pumping a lot of money into NASCAR, which is great to see. The fact that I think they're a UPS authorized reseller, it sounds like that's how they kind of got the blessing to run UPS on the hood. And it's so cool to see a Dale Jarrett throwback like this. Like, this is a pretty freaking close, authentic throwback. Right down to the UPS on the side of the car is that same yellow orangey text on the side. I'm colorblind, so yellow orangey text on the side.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is, I think when Kyle Sykes was putting this car together, you're not used to seeing something like this from Kyle Sykes, even though it's a throwback, because his schemes were always so complicated and complex and loud and very vibrant. This is a little more subdued for him, but I think, it looks pretty good. He had to probably make that one custom to match whatever style the 88 was, but I think it's pretty cool to see. There's been a lot of Dale Jarrett throwbacks this year, but it's really cool to see Worldwide Express kind of using their partners and like their B2B deals to put UPS on the hood. And that's the old UPS logo too. Like, that's not the current one, that's the old one. And that, I think, really hits home what makes a solid throwback. And this, Trackhouse every year. I mean, Kyle just kills it every year with paint schemes with Trackhouse, even on non-throwback weekends. But he's a dangerous guy when it comes to designing paint schemes.
All right. What's next? You were talking about Alpha Prime and their kind of their theme this year. What's this? Another Kevin Harvick scheme.
So this is 2005.
Yeah,
I think.
Yes.
The inverse of his 04 car, which was always one of my favorites. The silver with that neon red on the side. I mean, there were a couple of nights where, like, hey, let's go out somewhere, and this kid was stuck in his room working on these cars, and this shows why. I think frontstretch.com actually named this the best paint scheme in Xfinity for throwback, but Pastana's got Pastana has an eye for detail too. Like I said earlier, APR on this car changed their logo to match the RCR logo, and Keen Parts, Corvette Parts, they're another partner that is willing to throw out their brand guidelines for a race to really do it right. And you put this car side by side with the Quicksilver car from 05, they look pretty damn close. Ryan will spend hours to make sure something as accurate as possible, and he killed it with this one. Alpha Prime is always having these throwbacks. They'll change their number style. They'll change anything they got to do to make it accurate. And Ryan is, he's very good when it comes to that sort of stuff. So Alpha Prime as a whole, the 43, the 44, and the 45 are some of the, again, a team-wide throwback palette. It's a huge win in my book.
Yeah, this one was pretty good. There's Xfinity's got some really good ones this year, in terms of throwbacks. But
and even too, like, if you look behind the 3 on that car where it says Rich Marr, that's supposed to be Snap-on, I believe. So
yep.
Ryan was able to recreate the Rich Marr logo as a Snap-on logo. So it's things like that.
Yeah,
really,
and also, if you notice too, the old GM logo.
It's KP.
Yeah.
That to me, when a scheme can pull that stuff off, it really makes the difference. It really does. It might not mean much to the sponsor, or it might be an afterthought for them, but to a fan, It means a lot. It really, really does.
And if you notice down in the bottom left corner there, the APR for Alpha Prime Racing is in the font that RCR is in.
Again, and that's something that Ryan had to probably retrace that A and that P to make sure it looked accurate, and it wasn't just RCR, but it's details like that that they make all the difference. I'm a huge stickler for detail on throwbacks, and this was a very good example.
All right. What's next? This one.
So this was a shock to a lot of people, I think.
I think it's just a throwback to Ryan Newman's back.
It's a throwback with a throwback driver and Ryan Newman. And a lot of people probably weren't expecting this, to have Ryan Newman back in the car. And his first race back is Darlington. It's throwback season. And they're a throwback to his 2002 Mobil 1 car. Kyle Williams put this car together. And when I used to do my fun with numbers stuff, like on Twitter, like I would take the number fonts and make these random numbers. The 50, I tried to Rick Ware 51 before with the Penske numbers. It just never looked right. Like, and I'm sure Kyle had to spend a lot of time, because you can't just rotate that to mirror it and call it a day. It looks goofy. It looks way too heavy on the top. So I'm sure he had to spend a lot of time making sure that 5 looked very good. And he really did a good job with this car. It doesn't look like much because of the design of it, but I think, to recreate the Biohaven logo as Speed Pass, Jacob Companies is another company that I think is very good about throwback time. They're willing to let the designer kind of have their fun. And Kyle Williams is one of the best designers in the sport. I mean, the guy made, I think, 127 cars in 2021 across Cup, Xfinity, trucks, and ARCA. He just doesn't stop. And him at the decal source, I mean, they got a great asset on their hands in Kyle, and this is a great example of it. Again, from an accuracy perspective, I think this is a very, very good car. It's gonna be cool to see Newman run this car at Darlington. It's gonna be so cool. I can't wait to see it, and he's back in a Ford too, which I think which makes this even better.
Yeah, it's just it's like 2002 all over again. So
It is.
All right, next. Speaking of early 2000s throwbacks, this one was pretty good. But then again, it's Ryan Williams throwback, so no one should be surprised by this.
Ryan Williams, he is, again, he's in that same category as Harris and Ryan Daly, as people who really appreciate the 80s, the 90s, the early 2000s. This was something that I think a lot of fans weren't really expecting for the one car to run, but this is Kurt Busch's 2001 Sharpie throwback when he was a rookie. And it kind of makes sense. Like, like Mayer's a young driver on the way up. And, I think a lot of people don't really get how much work goes into a throwback like this. When you have to take a brand like Accelerate and you have to recreate that logo in the Sharpie font, for example, like that takes time. And Ryan Williams around throwback time, he's the Tire Pros car is a great example too. He will really take his time to make sure it captures the essence of whatever era that car is coming from. I mean, he's literally a walking throwback. Like if you see Ryan Williams in person, he looks like he just stepped out of the 80s. I mean, that's his style, it's his personality. And he's a great guy, he's a great designer, and I think this was a pretty cool one to see. I don't think anyone's done this one yet either. So again, this is a throwback. Like there are still good options out there. Yeah. You just got to try to find one that no one's done before. And I'm pretty sure this car too is matte black and the blue strokes are gloss. So at night it might pop off even more.
Yeah.
But he really did a good job with this car with Sharpie, Rubbermaid, kind of nodding back to them. And yeah, I mean, throwback time is Ryan Williams' favorite time. And every year he's always working on something special.
If you notice, Accelerate is in that Sharpie format there.
Mhm.
It's just that, I mean, and then Accelerate kind of fits where the Rubbermaid logo would be. So yeah, it's
Well, that's actually backwards. So
really,
the hood is Sharpie, and then the sides of the car are Rubbermaid.
really, that's
Yes.
pretty cool.
So, and it's like I said, it's cool to see because Accelerate's colors I think are blue and white.
Correct.
So to see their logo on red, some sponsors will not like that at all. But in this case, it's a different story with Sam Mayer and Accelerate.
Next. Oh, this actually, I
So
think this was the first throwback to get revealed.
so I believe this is the last one I have that I consider hits. Um, you can't go wrong with Mario Andretti. You
No.
just can't. And Gamebridge is really putting a lot into Rev Racing Nick Sanchez, and they changed the number font. Gamebridge was willing to change their styling too, and even like the Ford on the quarter panels, like for it to say Gamebridge, it's so great to see this. Mario Andretti's one of the greatest drivers to ever live, really, and to have a young driver like Nick want to honor him that way. Plus, Mario's going to Darlington too, so he'll get to see it in person today, and it's so cool to see this. Like I said, this is just such. I don't think this car has been done yet, and I think when it got unveiled, a lot of people are kind of like, huh, like that's interesting. But who says it's like? I don't care if a driver throws back to a F1 driver. Like, do something like unique. And Mario Andretti is probably a driver that a lot of people don't think to throw back to, but he was in NASCAR. So, and that's also a cool throwback because the Andretti name is so well known.
Yeah.
So I think with Nick Sanchez running this, it's such a cool thing, and I hope I can't say I know this yet, but I really hope that truck rolls off the grid tonight with those red rims on it. Yeah, it's gonna look real nice if it does.
Oh, it will. I think that looks cool. And Gamebridge has really kind of came in. I mean, I was at the ARCA Championship at Toledo, and this is kind of like, obviously they've been in motorsports. Obviously they're an IndyCar with Colton Herta and all that, but
Mhm.
I know they're just a company that's willing to help a lot of people out, of course, with Rev Racing, and then I know they're also working with Justin Gatlin, who was also at the ARCA Championship race at Toledo last year. So, yeah, this was actually one of I think the first throwback to get revealed. So,
Yeah, one of the first.
yeah. All right, I know. I think you have more, don't you?
So I have two more categories. Not many, but just two more. I have one section of what I call the middle ground, where I'm kind of stuck between if it's a hit or a miss. Then I have all the misses. So we'll hit the middle ground first.
Okay.
Um, so this was the first one that I have,
All right.
and the big reason why, first of all, I think it's a great idea, without a doubt. I think this is a great idea to run this. Um, it's going back to 1998 with Jeff Gordon when he ran the Chrome Illusion car. It was that color changing car, right? And that's a key to this. The car changed colors. As I think as the light hit it, the car would change color. I don't believe this car is going to do that because every car has to be wrapped now. And the Chrome Illusion car was paint. So the whole point of this race car was for the colors to change as the night went on or as the day went on. This car is probably not going to do that if it's a wrap.
Yeah.
So it pains me that that's what the car was known for. It was this unique shape, this unique coat of paint that could change. We haven't seen this since 2010. 2010? Yeah. Jamie McMurray ran a car Pocono, the Axe Twist car, and it had a color changing hood. Not sure if you remember this or not, but the hood would change color, I think, based on heat.
Right.
Um, so this car pains me because of that reason. And the other thing is too, I really would love to know. Maybe there's a legal reason behind this. why we can't change the Exalta logo to like the DuPont oval just
Um,
for a race.
I think there are two. I think they're separate. I believe. Don't quote me on this, but they are. I believe they are separate companies now.
They are. But the reason why I bring this up is because when this car got leaked originally, it got leaked out early. It leaked about 3 days early. And the original concept for it, I'm pretty sure it was legitimate leak, called for the Raptor logo to be in that oval. Basically, it was the Raptor logo that you see now, just in an oval. And I think that would have hit the hood so much better because of the rainbow arc you have on the hood. It
Yeah.
just looks like it's kind of out of place almost. But I'm glad to see a Jeff Gordon throwback like this. I think it's a very special one. I just like I said, I'm a stickler for detail. So I just wish we were able to see the oval logo with Exalta, like, because like teams they'll play, like, look at APR for example. They did the RCR logo. There are ways to make it happen, but sometimes it depends on, I mean, there's legal hurdles to go through, approvals to go through, but like Hendrick has Jeff Gordon merchandise now with the DuPont logo on hats. Like they just released a batch of them 2 days ago. So there's definitely a way to do it, but I'm not sure if maybe it's not worth the legal hassle. I don't know. But this was the first one I had, and the second one I had was Ryan Priest's throwback to his father. Now, the only reason why I put this one on this list as a stuck in the middle is because I really wish that they could have changed the 41 to match his dad's 4. Like, there's a way, because I mean, Piston, every designer does this, where they're going to have to recreate a number in a similar style to that 4. Like that 1 would need to be retraced, you know. So I really wish we could have seen this 41 in that style to really hit it home. But again, that it's great that he's doing his dad's throwback. I think that's so cool the way they unveiled it. I just really wish we saw that 41 in the style of his dad's 4.
Yeah. I believe we have one more category we have to hit.
Time for the misses.
Okay.
So there's a couple, not many. There's 5 misses.
Okay.
And a lot of these, some of these are kind of like, why'd they do that? Some of them are kind of, we'll get to it. But so this is Denny Hamlin's throwback this year. And the big thing that I'm not a fan of with this is they just did this 3 years ago. Like 3 or 4 years ago, they just did this throwback. So I'm not sure really why they're doing it again. Maybe FedEx wanted it, but it's like, Denny can do so many cool throwbacks, like from the cars he's driven. I mean, I would have loved to have seen like a Denny Hamlin 2011 throwback or something like that. Like, give me a FedEx car that we hasn't been done in a while.
Right.
Even like Jason Leffler, like that to me was such a colorful car.
Yeah.
Let's do that again.
Yeah. I forgot it was already done like 10 years ago.
Yeah, when after Jason
Yes.
lost his life, they rewrapped the car. It was for Michigan, I believe.
Yep.
And it was so cool seeing that car back on track. Like, because, when the 11 went full time in 2005, that was the first paint scheme design of that car. And the first for, FedEx being back in the mix. But yeah, this is one that I kind of wish they just did something different. I mean, it's a classic look. I just wish, they would do something different.
Yeah. All right. I was wondering if this would make it on this list, and it did.
So this one just felt kind of weird because it kind of felt like the sponsor was just kind of, maybe someone was a huge Dale Jarrett fan. This one just doesn't feel, it feels out of place. It kind of feels like you're trying to marry these two ideas together and just the execution just wasn't there maybe. But I'm pretty sure there was a Country Crock paint scheme in like the 80s or the 90s,
Yeah.
I think. that they could have that maybe they could have done that one. But I'm curious to know though, because this throwback and Chastain's are, I think, of the same year or within 2 years of each other. So I'm curious to see, and I wish I was going there this weekend and see it in person, a color accuracy perspective.
Yeah.
Who got it right? And I would probably place my bets on Trackhouse. But who knows? But yeah, this throwback just kind of felt like it was maybe a last minute thing. The Happy Mother's Day on the bottom, if that's where it lands on the car, is kind of an awkward spot. But yeah, I mean, this was just I feel like just kind of thrown together like at the last minute.
Yeah. All right. What's next?
So, the big thing with this one for me is the numbers moved forward. The numbers moved forward to accommodate more sponsor space, right?
Yes.
Judging off the render alone, the DeWalt logo is bigger on Kenseth's car than it is on the next gen car. There's so much empty space on that 20 car. And it just, I just didn't understand it. Like, and a lot of fans had the same thing. Like when this scheme and the Byron car got leaked at the same time. I don't know how that happened, but they leaked at the same time. And I just didn't understand when they unveiled this. I was like, why? Like, I understand it's Matt Kenseth. Like, I think it's a great idea, but I think the execution was just poor. I kind of wish we saw, like, I don't know. Again, I feel like they had good intentions, but maybe there was limitations or something. I don't know. But I mean, Kenseth's 2003 car is timeless. This one just kind of feels like it was. Just don't do it. It's not accurate.
Yep. All right. Next.
So disclaimer on this next one. Hear me out.
Okay.
The idea, the idea was great.
Yeah.
The execution was not. So this is a throwback to his to Harvick's planned Cup debut in 2001, the AOL car. We've all seen it. The big thing for me though is the colors of this car. It just doesn't work in my opinion. You can't really, and this is a problem I think. Like Harrison Burton's car has had this problem for a couple of years, across his rise up because he always throws it back to his dad. But when the colors don't match the car, it's a questionable throwback. Like because you might not even know what it is. Like Harvick's AOL car, it wasn't really an iconic design per se. And if the design is iconic and you change the colors, you have the design of it to kind of land back on, to kind of save itself. But when they announced this car, I was shocked that they didn't at least make it like that AOL blue, purple, and like match the colors. If they did that, everybody would know what car this was right away. But it just, I feel like this was a huge, huge miss, especially because it's Kevin Harvick retiring.
Right.
I really wish Sonny D would have matched the AOL color palette. But again, I hate to see this car run because you have so many good Harvick paint schemes to throw back to. And to get the colors right, I'm sure you could have found, like, if you did like the Reese Cup throwback for Kevin Harvick, this probably would have matched those colors better. It's orange, green, like you would have matched it better. But I think the idea was great, but it just I really wish this car was purple, yellow, green, the AOL car, the AOL colors basically.
Yeah.
But there's a saving grace because next week at North Wilkesboro he's running the 29.
Yeah.
Which was to me, I kind of wondered if we'd see the base come back, but to have the number for the All-Star race, I think is such a cool concept.
Yep.
But yeah, I really wish they would have changed the color, the primary base to be blue or purple, but
Yep.
we'll have a saving race next week.
Yeah. And who knows, that throwback actually might get done in the next few years. You never know.
It probably will. And then the last one I have is so this is a throwback to Truex in 2017. This kind of just felt like it was like a, oh crap, we forgot we gotta do a throwback this year. What should we do? I understand where this was from 2017, the year he won the championship. It's a good looking car for a non-throwback weekend. But this to me was just a questionable one. I was just like, you could have done even like the auto owner's car from like the Justin Allgaier H. Scott days would have been cool to see. Like, give me auto owner's first scheme ever in NASCAR. But yeah, I mean, I think this car is beautiful for a non-throwback weekend. But for a throwback weekend, I'm not sure what the thought process was, but it'll look good under the lights. But I don't know. I feel like if you don't do a throwback for like a proper throwback for throwback weekend, you kind of lose a lot of publicity. And this car is probably not going to get a lot of TV time unless he's leading the race.
Yeah. All right. Well,
but that's all of them. That's my roster for you.
Yeah, that's another year of pretty good throwbacks, and we've had a lot of good ones. So
yeah. I think this year was one of the better years of throwbacks. I think the last couple of years, people started stumbling a little bit, not knowing what was coming. But this was a very good year for throwbacks, I think. Still have a wish list of a couple I want to pull off, I want to see, but we'll have to wait and see for next year.
Yep. All right. Michael Carey, thank you so much for coming on as always, and let's do this thing again next year.
Same time, same place, brother.